So, Howard, I was doing a bit of research before we jumped on the call, and you describe yourself as a recovered anxiety sufferer. Have I got that right?
Yes, ex-anxiety sufferer.
Ex
Yeah, for
ex
sure.
anxiety sufferer. Can you tell me a bit more about that? Because I'm pretty sure that people would love to know how you've gotten from being an anxiety sufferer to an ex-anxiety sufferer.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that pops to mind is actually, I remember after doing a YouTube video about suffering with anxiety, someone picked up on this idea that I'd referred to myself as an ex-anxiety sufferer. And then they wrote in the comments, "Oh, what? So you're saying you never have anxiety? You don't have anxiety at all? How dare you claim you're an ex-anxiety sufferer?" And so I think there is the first thing to point out is that there's a big difference between having anxiety, which is a normal part. It's a normal part of human emotion. It actually serves a purpose, and then suffering with anxiety. And the difference is that it's not. Is it chronic? Is it intrusive to the quality of your life? Is it out of hand? Are you spiraling into something that seems now out of control? Or is it just, hey, I'm a bit nervous because I haven't done this before, but I'm still able to do it, to put one step in front of the other and take action on it? Or is it getting in the way? And of course, it's entirely normal to have anxiety. So I'm not claiming I'm anxiety free.
Hmm.
I'm saying I used to suffer with anxiety and now I don't. And
And
what
that's
I'm
a
talking
very key
about,
point, isn't it?
oh, huge, hugely different. But yeah, my backstory is, I mean, look, just to age me, I'm still in my 30s. I'm 13, and I'm not leaving my 30s. But when I was 15 years old, I was diagnosed as having a severe panic attack and anxiety disorder. And I spent, I mean, I really was having a rough time. I had lots
Hmm.
of weird and wonderful symptoms, things like I felt like I couldn't breathe, I couldn't get a satisfying breath. I felt like I was outside of my body, which I didn't even have the terms for back then, but now I know
Mm.
is depersonalization and derealization. Um, I couldn't cope. I was agoraphobic, claustrophobic. I was pretty every phobic you could be. I had in spades. My parents were very concerned. What would become of me? I couldn't really go to school. Daily panic attacks. And yes, I got the diagnosis of anxiety and panic attack disorder. So I knew it was serious because the doctors told me it was a disorder.
Hmm.
And
That
they
word
put,
was a powerful word, wasn't it? Or it still is.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because, and on the one hand, people say, well, it's good to get a label. On the other hand, if we're not careful, the word disorder made me go, oh, so there's something wrong with my brain. There's something wrong with me. And the inference is, I can't get over that. I'm
Hmm.
broken. It's pathological rather than there's anything. So there is a tendency sometimes when we get labeled to just sort of throw our hands back and go, well, what can I do about it then? I've just got a disorder. It's not my
Mm.
fault. Um, they put me in antidepressants, and I kept saying, why are you putting me in antidepressants? I'm having anxiety and panic attacks. And they said, well, no, that's what we need to do. And but I never felt depressed. I just felt very fed up of feeling anxious. And I always felt that was like slightly different. And I had 3.5 years of traditional psychotherapy. A lovely lady, I really liked her. And every week we'd go in and we'd have sessions, and she'd say, "How do you feel? How have you been this week?" And I go, I felt shit this week." And then she'd say, "How do you feel about feeling shit?" And I go, "Bit shit." And we did that for 3.5 years. And
Okay.
and I finally got her theory as to why I was like I was. And I said, "Oh, is that why you're saying I am like I am?" And she said, "Yes, Howard, and I've known that for 3.5 years. But you had to get there yourself."
Oh, okay.
Right. And I said, "Well,
She
what
gave
now?"
you her theory 3 years in.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Yeah. But I had to get there myself. By the way, looking back, knowing what I know now, I think her theory was, and I want to be diplomatic, so I will, bullshit. And
Subtle.
subtle. It was subtle, wasn't it? Yeah. I'm very subtle, very subtle. Um, but essentially, this theory that I got, I didn't buy because I was still having panic attacks and anxiety. And I was like, well, what now? Because I'm still having a
Mm.
problem. And she looked at me, and there was this moment where she kind of was semi-smug, and she kind of went, but Howard, now you know why. And I never cared why,
Right.
ever.
That's
I just wanted to
interesting.
get better,
Mm.
you know.
Mm.
And that's really, it was that experience that I think lit a personal fire underneath me to go, I don't accept that these are the best tools out there. There must be things that are more interested in how do we stop anxiety patterns? How do we stop the patterns of thinking or change the patterns of thinking that we're running, rather than just delving into analysis? And that's really what put me on the path of discovering a whole bunch more of what I would call solution-focused methods of change, which I've become a collector of over the last 23 years, and training up and then working with people therapeutically. And that kind of brings me to now, where I'm working as a specialist, helping people with anxiety and some of the symptoms that anxiety creates. But yeah, that's why I bill myself as an ex-anxiety sufferer, because for me, that was a very traumatic time of my life, and I
Mm.
felt not served well by the current therapeutic approaches at that time. And I'm sad to say that there's a lot of therapeutic approaches that I think are still serving people as ineffectively. And that's 20 odd years later.
Yeah, the many different types of therapy, and the analysis version is very, very different from the solution focused version. And they all have a place, I would say, but it depends on context and it depends on what you're going to therapy for. And yeah, sounds to me like you discovered that the why wasn't actually going to affect any change.
Right.
Is that right? The why didn't
Yeah,
mean that that was the change instantly. Oh, well, I know why now, so it's gone away.
I think a lot of it is there are these ideas, aren't there? That okay, there's a few therapeutic ideas that I think are woven into the fabric of our culture. Perhaps from Freud, perhaps from other places, but there's this idea that there's a root cause, and that if we can find some sort of root cause, the reason we are like we are, and we can
Mm.
uncover it and we can bring that to the surface, that somehow magically it will just alter and we will be changed because we now have this deep understanding of why and what. Um, I think there are two problems with that. Number one is, even if you get a theory as to why you are like you are, I haven't always seen, or it doesn't necessarily mean that that causes change.
Hmm.
And I think on the times where people do change because they got a back a background understanding of why or where it came from, it's not the understanding of where it came from that causes the change. It's the fact that they have a different relationship to their current thinking about it.
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
wasn't a necessary step. I also think that it's all story, and that the idea that we can find the one root cause of something
It's
is
like
a
the Holy
total
Grail. Yeah.
right,
Like,
and it's an oversimplification of what's going on. The truth is that uh, since evolutionarily, from a biological point of view, evolutionarily, the way the brain was created and the neurons that are constructed and developed form connections and coding within the brain that are then affected also by culturally, geographically, historical influences, generations upon generations of parental influences going back and back and back, that eventually you end up in a situation in time and space where your brain learns certain patterns. And the
mm.
idea that we can go to one, just one
Aha!
happening.
I found it.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
that one thing. No, it's more likely a combination of everything that's ever happened.
Hmm.
So I sometimes joke that it's trying to find the root cause of an issue is a little bit like trying to find the one grain of sand that caused the sandcastle.
Hmm.
And that even if you went, well, I think it's that one, at best it's a theory. And
Yeah.
two, the sandcastle is still there. And so I think it's much healthier to kind of go, look, we can never really know apart from theory.
Hmm.
So let's just go, okay, well, if it's all theory, let's just let go of having to find a root cause and look at how do we change the patterns in the now.
Yeah. Yeah. Which puts you in a very different place, because you're then able to affect the present moment. I've always thought,
Right.
going back to the past, we can't stay there. It's gone. It's done. It's what changes things. We're living now, moment to moment to moment, and we need to find ways to effectively help ourselves from present moment to present moment to present moment.
Right. And again,
Mm.
you're absolutely right. There's this idea that, someone takes you back to the past to recode it. They're not.
No,
They're taking you to thoughts right now labeled the past.
only in Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah. Now that would be good. Yeah. TARDIS therapy.
Could you imagine?
Oh, that would be
But
amazing.
yet we can't travel back. It's physically impossible, but we're going back to memories, aren't we? Which is
Well,
to
I
do
don't
with the
think.
way that we're that neurons and the connections that you're talking about were
No,
formed in some way, or not quite that.
no, I don't think we are. I don't think we're going back to
No?
memories. I think I mean, it's really interesting. We construct in the moment images
Ah,
and we
yeah.
label them. This happened.
Ah,
So it's not
interesting.
going back to what happened. And
Right.
if it's all right with you, I'll share. I sometimes do this with clients, actually. And I'm going to see. Hang on. I wasn't prepared for this. It's okay.
It's okay.
You could.
We
It
like the
doesn't matter.
spontaneity.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm going to do something now. Here we go. This is, if it's okay with your viewers and listeners, as I grab
It's
a piece of
absolutely
paper.
okay. I'll speak on behalf of them.
Oh, good. Well, that's all right, because I was going to do it
Just
anyway.
in this
Uh,
moment, I speak on behalf of.
I was going to do it anyway. It's fine. Uh, Here we go. I'm trying to find. I normally have a pad of paper there, and my son was in the office last week and took all my paper. So I'm now constructing grabbing a piece of paper, which is really the back of an envelope, in a true professional moment,
Crafty.
being prepared. Okay. So what I'd like to do is I am going to give you my my 17-hour lecture on the neuroscience of memory. And luckily, I have managed to condense it down to 2 minutes.
Good to know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm excited.
So,
I'm intrigued.
okay. So here we go. I'm going to try and do this if I can.
Mhm.
And I'm even going to hold on a second. Where is? I'm going to share my screen very briefly.
Mhm.
And this is clever, isn't it? Doing technological stuff whilst recording live.
I think you're just proving how great at multitasking you are.
Here we go. Screen, allow to share window. That'll do. Oh, look at this.
Amazing. I can see what you see.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Let's begin. There we go. Done.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. Explain to me what I've just witnessed.
Right. Well, here's the thing. People have an old-fashioned idea about memory. And the old-fashioned idea that we have about memory is this, that our brain is recording every moment of our lives like a tape recorder. Right. And if I want to go back magically to last Tuesday, that somehow I can just go, oh, I'm seeing last Tuesday now. Look, it's last Tuesday. Look, I look good, don't I? But that's not what's actually happening. If we look at a neurological level, here's what's happening. And by the way, if my calculations are correct, then James, you will have a memory of the random shape that I brought up,
Mhm.
drew, and then deleted, and didn't comment on, mainly to be mysterious and enigmatic.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was like, I'm seeing a triangle. I'm okay with that. It's gone again.
yep, there we go. So let's imagine in 3 hours' time after this recording,
Mm.
right? We're off the air, but I ring you out the blue and I go, James, it was so good doing that podcast with you. I really loved chatting to you. Do me a favor, tell me what was the random shape that I drew on the whiteboard and didn't comment about? Well,
Mhm.
you wouldn't be on the recording right now. You wouldn't be on with me in that moment. So what would have to happen is you would take a blank piece of paper mentally and you would construct in that moment a triangle.
Yeah.
And you would look at it and you'd say, Howard, triangle. And it would feel to you that in that moment, what you were seeing was the whiteboard.
Hmm.
And then you'd stop thinking about it. There you go, done. Imagine another 3 hours goes by and I ring you again. And I say, James, it was good seeing you earlier. And of course, you're now thinking, oh, God, he's stalking me. Why did I bring him on the show?
I'm thinking
I
this
can't
feels
get rid of
strangely
him.
familiar. Yeah.
Yes. But apart from that, I say, what was the shape that you randomly drew on that I randomly drew on the whiteboard digitally?
Yeah.
Again, what would have to happen? Well, you wouldn't be there to see it. So you would bring up another blank piece of mental paper. You'd construct it. You'd look at it and you'd say, Howard, triangle. And again, it would feel like you were seeing the whiteboard. But more importantly, it would feel like what you've done was also bring up the image that you made 3 hours earlier.
Oh, okay.
And you wouldn't have. That would be an image that you made 3 hours earlier and then stopped thinking about. This would be the
Right.
current image that you made. And if you really
Right.
could put them side by side, which you can never do in real life, are they
Mm,
identical?
mm. No.
And neither of these are identical to the original one that got drawn.
Mm.
And
And I
that's what's
suppose that could
really
happen ad infinitum then, are you saying, over and over?
absolutely. And
Mm.
every time we recall something, we're not going back to an original memory. What we're doing is we're playing essentially Chinese whispers of the brain, where we're reconstructing it from scratch again. Then we're
Hmm.
looking at it, we're going, that's the cause of my problem, the past. But it's not.
Mm,
It's an image in the now that we're
mm,
labeling the past. And that's why having to go back and try and like pretend that we're dealing with the past is so, in many ways, fruitless, because we can't go there. All we can do is create different representations in the now.
mm.
And people like Elizabeth Loftus, who did some of the research around this, um, fascinating to read. But there's a great saying, by the way, which is, if you want to preserve accurate memories, the trick is to never recall them.
I
Because
like that.
the
Yeah.
act of recalling them
Makes it
actually
inaccurate.
changes them.
Yeah. Mm.
Correct. Which is why, me and my wife still argue about where we went on our first date. And I'm telling her I took her to the local pancake house. She said, we did go there, but we've been dating a while. We actually went to the pub around the corner. And I went, no, we didn't. And we both swear blind that we're right. Because I remember it, but
Yes.
she remembers it.
We
But
place
we've
a
had
lot of trust in that, the remembering of things, when actually it's not to be as trusted as perhaps we first thought.
not at all. What's happened? We've
Mm.
had the same starting moment. And then each time we've remembered it over the years, we've changed it subtly, subtly, subtly until we can now get to this point and argue about what really happened. But we both have the feeling that we're right.
Hmm.
And it's a feeling of certainty, which is why, someone said to me, having studied psychology and working with people all these years, do you know more about what goes on in people's heads? And I go, no, I know far less than I ever used to. Because
Yeah.
the idea that I think it and feel certain about it, I know doesn't make it true. Whereas I used to think, oh no, I know what you're feeling. No, I think we have to have a healthy disregard for feeling certain about what we think is true.
Hmm. So how does that then link in with the work that we can do effectively with such as solution focused therapy, where you help someone change their relationship with that thinking? What does that work look like?
Well, I think, first of all, if people realize that what they're experiencing is not actually the past, then the game changes entirely, because we're not. I give you. There's a great documentary that I recommend anyone watches on Netflix. Um, it's called Now Tell Me Who I Am.
Okay.
Have we talked about this before?
It's there's a vague jangling, but I can't
Okay,
quite place it
all right.
yet.
Let me jangle some more then. Um, this fascinating documentary, right? Two twin brothers.
Mm,
They grow up, and at 18, one is involved in a horrific car accident and has brain damage, loses his memory of everything and everyone. There's only one piece of information that he remembers and knows to be true, which is, that is my twin brother. That's
okay.
so I can trust him. That's it. The woman who's standing over him by his hospital bed, he doesn't know her, his mother, right? So you have this weird situation where he says to his brother as he's recovering and getting better, but never gets his
Hmm.
memory back, tell me who I am. Tell me about my childhood. Tell me who I am. Tell me what it was like growing up. Where did we go? What did we do? What sort of person am I like? And so on. So the brother fills him in on the holidays they used to go on, and the bedtime stories they used to get read, and the loving family, and blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. All the usual stuff. And he goes on, and he goes to university, gets a decent job, gets married. You know, this is the best I can remember it, by the way. It was a while ago since I saw it, but this is the gen, you know, someone will go, it
Mm.
wasn't university, it was college, or,
No, it's all right. I'm not going to hold you so highly
you
accountable.
know.
We have to go back
So he
over
goes and
everything.
essentially, ostensibly, ends up having this really lovely life, you know, where he's married, he's stable, feels great, so on. But as he's clearing out the mum's house, I think he discovers an inappropriate photo of himself.
Hmm.
And he says to the brother, what the fuck is this? And the brother goes white as a sheet. And then from then, there's this weird, like, are you not telling me something? And the brother gets very standoffish. And eventually he weans it out of him that they did not have a nice childhood at all. They were horrendously abused, locked in a shed from the age of 10, and involved in some like prostitution racket where the parents would prostitute their kids out. And at 18, when he lost his memory and turned to his brother and said, "Tell me who I am," the brother A could not bring himself to relive that himself
Hmm.
in telling it to the brother. And also, he didn't want to give the brother that back. How could he? You know, he's been given the gift of a clean slate, so he paints the picture of the ideal childhood. But here's the interesting thing. When the story comes out, the guy's life now falls apart. He can't hold down a job. He becomes anxious. He becomes depressed. He becomes unstable with all sorts of trauma responses. And I think the interesting thing that the documentary never covers, never goes into in depth at all, is I think it's fascinating, on the one hand, that whenever he has the story of everything was great, everything's fine, his life is going well. Whenever he has the story in his head of, oh no, I was raped and tortured and had an abusive childhood, his life falls apart.
Mm.
But in the period of his life when things were going well, he'd still been just as raped and tortured. It wasn't coming from the past. His responses were coming from the story he was absorbed in about the past.
It's powerful.
And the thinking that he was getting caught in the moment.
Mm.
So just to loop back, when you said, how does this affect how we work?
Mm.
So often we're trying to like reprocess stories of the past and go back and trying to find a trigger. But actually, it's more about the stories we allow ourselves to be absorbed in now,
Hmm.
rather than what did or didn't happen.
Mm. So it feels like we get a choice, we get an opportunity to take control, if that's the right phrase, of our storytelling and start editing it, changing it, having an impact on it, our self-talk, if you like, and that if we choose the right language, then we can bring about relief and positive change.
Yeah, I think the way we relate to our thinking,
Mm.
or as change workers or people interested in personal change, the way to affect change is to create more options of
Mm.
how to respond to things in the moment. You know, that don't. I mean, is there such a thing as a negative thought anyway?
It's an interesting question.
Like, for example, is the word death negative?
Mm. Subjective. Okay.
Right. Is the word birth positive?
Mm.
And if someone said, and a lot of people will say to me, yes, how death is negative and birth is positive. But what they're really
But
saying is that they're saying the letters of the alphabet, D,
yeah,
E, A, T, and H, are bad letters.
yeah.
But
If
the
you
letters
strip it
B, I,
right
R,
back,
T, H,
yeah.
yeah, and TH can swing both ways.
Hmm.
You know,
Mm.
like it's ridiculous. They're just
Yeah.
letters. It's what we then attribute meaning to.
Yeah, it's the assigned meaning. It's the inference we make. It's the feeling we give to those collection of letters from the alphabet.
Right. And
Yeah.
they're just letters of the alphabet. And
Mm.
sometimes it's nice to be able to not have to get into too much story. But I think one of the big mistakes is that, look, put it this way: if my son came running into my bedroom and said, "Daddy, there's a monster under my bed," how helpful would it be if I turned round to him and went, "George, there's no monster, but whatever you do, don't look it in the eyes." It's going to scare the shit out of him, because in telling him he mustn't see it,
Mm.
his brain then goes, "Oh, so it's a threat, is it? It really is a threat." And I
Mm.
think a lot of therapy, what we do is people have thoughts like, "Oh God, I had this terrible time when I was young," or "I must only have positive thoughts. I have to think positive." We live in a world where at the moment it's a bit like toxic positivity. Everyone has to be positive, and we've become afraid of internal negative thoughts and feelings.
Mhm.
But if every time these thoughts and feelings that are unpleasant pop up, we go, "Oh God, I mustn't think about that. I mustn't feel it. I mustn't do that." We're
We
essentially
scare
saying,
ourselves, don't we?
yeah,
Mm.
we're saying there's no problem, but don't look at it. And our brain's going to flag it up. So we pay more attention to it.
Mm.
There's that silly age-old expression, isn't there? When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. No, sorry. What about this? When life gives you lemons, what if it's okay for it to taste sour?
Mm.
And then remember that the flavor won't last forever.
Mhm. All things shall pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I worry that we're all sitting there metaphorically in this age of toxic positivity, biting into our sour lemons going, "It's lovely and sweet. It's fine." Like, why? That
Yeah.
disconnect between reality and what we're feeling. It's okay to feel.
And I think then if we go back to that, what you said about, language, it's all a collection of letters from the alphabet arranged in a certain way, which then
Yes.
we attach a load of meaning to. What do you think's going on with the collection of letters that spell out anxiety? There seems to be
Not.
something happening in society where that's now become
Oh yeah.
something more.
Well, absolutely. I used to go out with a girl whose her name was Anne and her last name was Ziety. I got very nervous dating her. Oh God,
I
please,
said about
someone
editing
shoot me
earlier.
now. Someone shoot me now. Okay, no.
It did tickle me, actually. Yeah, you're
No, that's all right. I do have a lot of Anne jokes. I used to go
right.
out with a Greek girl who's Anne. Her
Yeah.
surname was no, it was Anna. Sorry, yeah, her surname was Phylaxis. When it ended, I got very choked up.
Oh, Howard.
Oh, I know. Let's move on before I. Oh God,
We'll
these have
speak
never come
later.
out
I
of the
want I
podcast.
want your full repertoire later
Oh,
on.
you will regret that. When we stop recording, you will regret wanting my full Anne jokes. But
I'm going to want you to email them to me
well, there we go. Yeah,
because I'm a big
absolutely.
fan of. And now you've converted me to be a lover of Anne jokes. So there you go. Thank you for that.
Oh, there are at least 20 of them that I have, and I have some notes where I keep a list of them.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's
with
terrible.
the word
Sorry.
anxiety, the collection of letters. What's happening there?
Well, it's just a word, but
Mm.
unfortunately, what we do is we mislabel.
Mm.
We tend to label experience, and we forget that it's made up of smaller portions. So, for example, right, if I ask everyone right now to put their hand on the table in front of them or on a
Mm.
surface, and you can try this as well. And then I said,
Okay,
close
I'll
your
do it
eyes
now.
and tell me what are you feeling right now?
You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I put my hand on the table and I've got a notepad, so my hand's half on the notepad, half off the notepad,
Okay.
and I
So
can
what do
feel
you
the
think?
surface of the table.
Right. No, you can't.
No.
No, 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 no. So you don't feel surface of table.
Okay.
And I know that sounds very strange because I can't see you and you probably have proof that that's where your hand is, right? But what I mean is surface of table is not a sensation. Surface of table is a big label that you've given a bunch of sensations. So you may feel in your hand
Mm.
some pressure, some
Hmm.
resistance, some coolness, some coldness, some pulsing, some tension. And then what you do is you label all of these sensations because you know where you are. You label that
Mm.
all as surface of table. which is fine,
Yeah,
and that's a very normal thing to do, and that's how we
exactly.
sort of live life.
But
But
when you explain it like that, it puts a very different frame over it.
yeah, and I would argue anxiety is the label like surface of table. It's the big group. But what people are actually experiencing is, if you broke it down, they might be feeling some heart racing. They might feel some moisture in hands. They might
Hmm.
feel some tension in stomach. They might feel some, I don't know, some pressure or sort of heat in face.
Mm.
But these are all raw sensations. And what they do is they then label all of these sensations together as anxiety.
Okay.
And I think if we start treating anxiety, it becomes harder, it becomes more slippery because we're not feeling anxiety. What we feel is a bunch of sensations that we're
Mm.
interpreting as a threat. But is racing heart actually a threat? Or does it just tell us that our heart's racing?
Hmm.
And people will often say, well, no, I mean, I've had this before since, oh, my heart racing tells me I'm anxious. It doesn't. And here's how I know. If I feel my heart racing and I see a beautiful woman in the distance, I'm going to go, oh, heart racing plus attractive, someone that I'm attracted to equals attraction, arousal,
Okay.
excitement.
Yeah.
If I see a spider run out across the kitchen floor and feel this,
Mm.
I don't go and ask the spider out on a date, right?
Because you've told yourself a different story, haven't you?
Correct. Even though I have the same feeling. If I go
Mm.
up one flight of stairs and feel this, I then have a different story again. Oh, I'm unfit. I need to go to the gym.
Mm.
But the feeling by itself doesn't tell me anything. I have to add a story to it. In just the same way, the letters DEATH don't tell you anything unless you add a story to it. The same
Hmm.
is true of sensations. So
Mm.
I think what we do is we've become like the word anxiety. And it brings me onto this idea of like, don't even say the word anxiety. And if you're going to say it, you have to put the word trigger warning ahead of time. The only trigger warning I need is when they use the fucking phrase trigger warning because it annoys
You see the
me.
warning for the warning.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm sorry, these are just words. The idea that you're going trigger warning, you're already making me think that everything you're saying poses some threat, and it's not. Like,
Mm.
there's just words on a Facebook post. It's just words. There's a
Mm.
paragraph. There's no inherent, I'm not going to read it and then drop down dead. There's no
Hmm.
threat in the words or the paragraph. But the moment you go trigger warning, what we're doing is we're sowing the seed to each other that words and stories and posts could suddenly make you feel something. So now we have to, I mustn't see the word anxiety and I have to walk around like this, or I mustn't see the word cancer in case,
Yeah.
in case
Mm.
cancer strikes me down. But obviously, the word
Mm.
cancer knows not to strike down you if you're an astrologist, because cancer's obviously different then.
Well, yeah, that's my star sign, actually, FYI.
Exactly,
But it's such a powerful message. I think from what I'm making, well, my sort of attempt to understand, my meaning making, is that we're trying to be less storytelling and creative and a little bit more literal about what it is that we're actually experiencing. So if we're
right,
experiencing heart racing, that in itself, in isolation, is heart racing, but it
correct.
doesn't mean anything. And if
Unless
we're
we
feeling,
start,
unless, yes,
yeah,
yeah, and you could, I mean, that's a big. It somewhat feels a bit philosophical in nature too. I don't know if that's right, but it feels freeing to be able to acknowledge that no one's saying we're going to stop telling ourselves any stories. I don't think our brains will ever really work like that, but that we can actually shift things, come back from the fairy tales and the stereotypes and the myths, and just be very matter of fact about it.
right. And on the one hand, it is an element of philosophical. On the other hand, if people don't realize that they're just stories,
Mm.
you're going to get taken in by them.
Mm.
You're going to respond to them as though they're true. And it's not that we stop making stories, but at least we begin to put in ideas that, oh, hang on, maybe this is just a story. And you catch
Ah,
that a little better.
yeah. So if you become more conscious and say to yourself, this is a story,
Yeah.
I can name it as a story, but I don't have to lose myself in the story.
Can I do an experiment right now? All right.
Absolutely.
Right, we're going to count you and I from 10 down from 10 to 1. You ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't look away. I don't want you to miss this.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Oh, so for those that can't see this, you've just counted down with your fingers from 10 to 1, and then you pulled out a handkerchief.
Thank you. Yes, I forgot. This is, oh yeah, because some people are
Well,
listening, some
it
people
will
are
be
watching.
audio, but some people will be
Okay,
listening.
well,
Yeah.
that's all right. This is a reason. If you're listening, this is definitely a reason to go back and watch the visuals of it
Absolutely
as
right.
well.
Yeah,
And subscribe while you're at it, apparently. That's what I'm supposed
exactly.
to say. There you go. Okay.
There you go.
I did the plug so you didn't have to. Okay. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
now I'm going to reveal now how it's done. Okay.
Okay.
Because I had my hands in front of you for 10 seconds. They were
You
empty,
did.
right?
Yeah, yeah, I was. I didn't see any red
Okay.
handkerchief anywhere.
Are
Yeah.
you ready for this?
Yeah.
Fake thumb.
Oh, you're again. He's holding up a fake thumb to the camera. Okay. And
And
oh,
what happens
no way. The
is this,
handkerchief is going inside the thumb.
yeah. And now what I do is I hold up my hands. And what I said to you was I'm going to count down from 10 down to 1. But now I've got my hands up and I've told you and exposed the idea of fake thumb. What can you see now that you didn't spot before?
The fake thumb.
Can you believe you missed it?
Well, I did miss it. So.
Right. It's not even the right color and it's not even the
No,
right
it's
size.
totally
It's
different skin
terrible.
tone. Yeah.
Oh, it's really bad. But you didn't spot it the first time.
No, I
Why?
didn't. Not at
Because you
all.
didn't know what to look for. And now you can't fail but notice it. And it's not the fact
Yes.
that, so this is a bit like storytelling. It's not the fact, like, we can do the stories, but now we know what to pay attention to. Now we know that they're just stories.
Mm.
I could do this all day, but you'll never get the same magical feeling
No.
of where did that come from? Because you kind of know how it works.
Yeah.
So this is why sometimes when I work with people, I say my job in many ways is to ruin the illusion of anxiety for you.
To ruin the illusion of anxiety. I like that.
You know, you can't see it the same way.
Mm.
Once you go, oh no, hang on, these are just words, isn't it? You know, and I find it's much more freeing than going to have to find the one grain of sand.
Well, yes, if we go back to that search for, yeah, like you say, that one root cause. But if we think about breaking the illusion of anxiety and what it actually is and what it isn't, yeah, that feels like that would have a much more immediate effect of bringing about relief.
Right. Which is
Yeah.
terrible for business because you end up helping people quicker
Quicker.
and more efficiently,
Uh-huh.
you know, and they could have come for weeks and weeks, months and months,
Mm.
years and years even.
Years, like you did. Yeah.
Years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And still get nowhere. But, you know, but no, genuinely, it gives me great pleasure when people have some insights. And of course, there's some artistry about helping people see that. It's not
Mm-hmm.
quite as simple as just saying, well, it's just a thought.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
a part of me then thinks, well, the artistry would come in many different forms. I suppose one would be the creativity that you're displaying in, you know, in the episode today, and also that there's going to be perhaps some resistance, if that's the right word, or hesitancy or skepticism, if people say, you know, I get that in theory, but how do I believe it for myself? I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense? So there's a process of working with somebody to help them to get to that point for themselves whenever they need to, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think it's a little bit like 1896, the Lumiere brothers created cinema.
Mm.
And the very first footage ever created was a 90-second movie of a train pulling into a station.
Mm-hmm.
And the rumor is that a bunch of people, when they saw this train appear on a wall coming towards them, they started freaking out and ran out screaming. You know, and it's like, so how would you help them be okay? Well, I think if we just said to them, dude, it's not real, it's just a screen, they'd go, shut up, I know what I saw. I can't talk to you about this because you're not validating my experience.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I don't think it would be useful to go, why do you think you're running away right now from that? let's go back and talk about the childhood and your past, and like that would seem rather redundant at that moment.
So it's
I think the
definitely somewhere
kindest
in the middle between those two.
well, I think the kindest thing actually would be to take them into the room themselves with the lights off and do some exercises where, like, feel the wall, where they get to see it's a solid wall,
Mm,
to see the projector, to play around with it themselves, to put a picture behind the lens, to turn it on, to see on the wall whatever picture they put in. And eventually,
mm,
if you give them enough examples where they suddenly go, oh, I get it. It's not a train, is it? It's just a move. Oh, I get the whole thing now. I
yeah.
would argue job done. If they have that,
Ah.
like they really get it for themselves, that's
Hmm.
different from you just telling them. And I would argue if they really understand how it works and they've had that deep embodied kind of like, oh, I get it.
Hmm.
Now they can watch the same thing and they'll have no physical response. They won't have to run out the cinema screaming anymore.
Mm.
And I would also argue if they're sitting there in the cinema and they see the train coming towards them and they're going like this, going, it's not real, it can't hurt me,
But
please, it
they're
can't
not
hurt me.
quite there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They haven't got it quite yet. They might be close, but it's not fundamentally, it's not quite. They're still falling for the magic trick, as it were,
Mm. Mm.
you know.
So a lot of your work would be doing that exact thing you just described, but helping them give them more
Yeah.
examples over and over until they go, ah,
In
I
lots
get
of
it.
contexts, in lots of
Yeah.
ways, in lots of
Mm.
modalities, until eventually their brain goes, I get it. And it's amazing because sometimes people get it like straight away. It's like
Hmm.
taking someone, someone in France in 1896, they touched the wall. They realize it's a solid wall. And then they just might go, get it. Okay. Change. Some people might need to be shown every frame of
Yeah.
the movie of the train and flip it through 17 times as a flip book and then practice it before. But eventually everybody will get it. It's just,
Hmm.
how do we help you?
Yeah. And treating everyone as an individual, recognizing that their experience will be unique to them. And so they've got their own way of getting from A to B.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the things that I know that you talk a lot about, which I'd love for you to explain to me a bit more in
Yeah.
depth, if you can, is this notion of air hunger that I know you sort of coined, if that's the right expression, as something that you've, I don't know, is coined the right word, or you've brought to people that didn't know about it before, but now think, oh, that's a
I
thing.
Yeah, I think the term air hunger is interesting. I'm not sure exactly where I got it from. I think someone described it that way, and I was like, oh, that's what I had. But
Mm,
air hunger, the way I look at air hunger, it originally was this weird thing that I had when I was young that I genuinely thought no one else has. I just thought this was a weird Howard thing, which was it didn't matter how much I breathed in, I
mm,
never felt that I could get a satiating, satisfying breath. It felt like I couldn't. It's like imagine just breathing half the amount you need to, and you're still gasping for like, no, I need to breathe more, but you couldn't
mhm.
take it. But imagine
Okay.
having that feeling that you can't take any more air in, but your
Mm,
lungs are fully expanded and you can't take anything else in. It feels like you're suffocating, and
mm,
so you tend to panic and you get anxious because you feel like you can't breathe, and it's ongoing. It doesn't fade away.
mhm,
So the whole time you keep checking in with your breathing, you feel like you're breathing manually, you can't take a breath in, and you end up, certainly as I did, going to the doctors, having tests. They put pulse oximeters on you and check your blood oxygen levels. They give you lung function tests, and they all come back clear. And the doctors look at you and they go, it's just anxiety. And you go, but I can't breathe.
mm,
You so physical, you feel like you can't breathe. And they kept saying, well, just take some deep breaths. And I even had someone who told me that you just need to get a hobby. That's the problem. Like, I can't breathe. Can you imagine seeing someone suffocating and then telling them to go take up chess? Like, talk about feeling fobbed off,
Yeah, quite.
you know. Um, so what happened was I've been building up a YouTube following and a TikTok following and so on. And
Mm,
if I'm honest, I ran out of content ideas one day. It's a content machine. It needs to be fed, and you generate a bunch of ideas. And I sort of got to the end of the list for that round, And I was like, oh, what should I put out? And then I had this thought, well, maybe I'll talk about that weird thing that I had.
Mm.
And this little voice inside went, no, you were the only one that had that. That was a weird Howard thing. No one will resonate with that. So I put it on the back burner, came up with some other ideas. But eventually, as simply a result of having no creativity and having no good ideas,
Like,
I
I
was,
need something.
yes, I was forced to, I thought, well, I'll just put it out then. If it helped, if it resonates with just one person, then fine. But if not, at least I filled a gap in the YouTube machine that demands attention. And eventually, I'll come up with some better ideas. But then what happened next shocked me. I did not expect, which is it blew up and it became my biggest video to date with literally hundreds of thousands of views,
Wow.
thousands and thousands of comments, thousands of people
Yeah.
going, oh my God, this is me. The way you describe this, they're always focusing on their breathing. They can't take a satisfying breath. They feel like they're suffocating. They get anxious. They go to the emergency rooms, A&E. They go to doctors. They all say you're fine, but they feel like they can't breathe. And some people started then reaching out to me and going, can you help me with this? Because I had inadvertently, when I was younger, discovered some weird counterintuitive things that helped.
Okay.
So instead of taking deep breaths, I found that taking restrictive breaths helped, actually.
Interesting.
So all
Okay.
the people that go take deep breaths, which is what your body's telling you to take deep
You're kind of
breaths,
setting yourself up to fail if you feel like you can't take deep breath. Yeah.
right. And I just noticed that there were all sorts of weird and wonderful things that if I took breathed less, even though it felt very uncomfortable, over
Mm.
time, I began to feel less hungry for air.
Mhm.
But it was hard to do. Anyway, I sort of got through that from, I would say, sheer force of will and being stubborn with myself about breathing. It was probably not the most seamless recovery of that.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
years later, I had the opportunity to chat with a guy called Patrick McEwen, who is a leading authority on breathing and something called Buteyko breathing. Buteyko.
Okay.
Buteyko. And he explained to me the science behind what was happening.
Mm.
And I started researching and discovered that what I was having was essentially respiratory alkalosis or chronic hyperventilation syndrome, where,
Okay.
without getting too scientific at the moment, your body, imagine this, right? In fact, I was writing a webinar recently where I use this example, but I love spicy food, love it. And I have noticed that over the years, because I love it and I eat a lot of it, my
Mm.
tolerance for spice has increased. I can now have very, very hot food, no
Mhm.
problem. And if I taste something that a normal mere mortal will eat and go, that's spicy, I'll go, bland. I can taste nothing. I'm saying that like it's a good thing. The reality is I've like obliterated my taste buds. This is not a good
Ah.
thing,
Okay.
right? But it's all about the
Part of me
framing.
was envious for a minute because I
No,
can't
no,
do
no.
spice.
I've literally, I can't taste anything. It has to
Oh,
be,
okay.
I have to set fire to it on a furnace for me to have any sense of flavor these days.
Okay.
Whereas my daughter is very sensitive to spice. So
Mhm.
if you put like one grain of pepper in her food, she'll be like, right? Because she has not exposed herself to it.
Mm.
And what happens with air hunger is this. When we breathe out, we're getting rid of carbon dioxide. Because people who breathe out too much or overbreathe, they're getting rid of a lot of carbon dioxide. They lose the ability, like with spice, they lose the ability to tolerate it.
Okay.
And so if someone's anxious, their respiration increases
Mhm.
because their body's getting ready for fight or flight. So they tend to get into patterns of dysfunctional breathing where they're breathing too much, they're getting rid of too much carbon dioxide. Their body stops tolerating normal levels of carbon dioxide. They lose their carbon dioxide tolerance. So
Ah.
now, what happens, and here's the thing most people don't know, it's not the lack of oxygen that triggers your urge to breathe. It's too much carbon dioxide in your body that triggers your urge to breathe.
Okay.
And if you have become very sensitive and you're not tolerating carbon dioxide, even a tiny little amount of carbon dioxide, you'll get that, I need to take a breath. And it feels
Mm.
like you're suffocating. So actually, air hunger is a result of And why doctors say it's anxiety is because what they mean is because you've got anxious, you've likely got into some chronic patterns of dysregulated breathing, which has
Mhm.
caused your body to make adaptations where you've become so hypersensitive to carbon dioxide, you are falsely getting the urge to breathe when you don't need it.
Ah, okay. So
Which,
physiologically, something's changed. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying? Okay.
absolutely. And so when I help people with air hunger, I actually teach them breathing exercises that retrain their tolerance of carbon dioxide. And at the same time, we treat the anxiety around it so that they stop over breathing, which instigates it in the first place.
Fuels it.
And
Okay.
then the worst thing to do is that people are going, well, I feel like I can't breathe, so I need to take more breaths.
Mm.
Big, take deeper breaths and breathe more. And all that does is exacerbate the over breathing. They breathe out more, therefore they become even more sensitive to carbon dioxide. So they feel it more, and then they go, oh my God, I've been taking deep breaths and I'm getting worse. What if I get stuck like this? What if it is a medical problem? What if it's an issue? They get more anxious, which causes them to overbreathe more, and they get
Mm.
into these horrible loops. So that's kind of what air hunger is. And I've kind of fallen into this weird gap because of this this video that I put out. That I have, I would say 70% of the work that I'm doing at the moment is people reaching out going, can you help me with air hunger? And I seem to have this knack of being able to help people cut through what's going on. And they've all been told, you're breathing fine, it's just anxiety. I mean, look,
Mm.
just to cover my own arse here, if any of your listeners are going, yeah, I feel like that and I feel like I can't breathe, go to the
Mm.
doctors, get checked out,
Mm.
because there are medical things that could account for shortness of breath. However, when the doctor turns around to you, does after all the checks and goes, it's just anxiety,
Mm.
this is now what I'm talking about is likely what's behind it and what's going on.
Mm. So it's physiological to do with the carbon monoxide intolerance, if that's the
Carbon
word.
dioxide, yeah.
Sorry, what did I monoxide?
Yeah.
That's
No,
a
it's all
very
right.
different thing. Carbon dioxide
Yeah.
intolerance.
Yep.
And then also the thought patterns. That there's a combination between the two, but you can
Yes.
reverse the carbon dioxide
Yep.
intolerance,
Yes,
retrain your body.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Mm.
if you look at like deep sea divers who do free
Mm.
diving, where they go
Mm.
down to like 5, and they can hold their breath for 8 minutes. They're on the other extreme. They've been training their
Oh,
carbon dioxide tolerance to
right.
way above normal. So now they can go down and they don't get the urge to breathe for 8 minutes.
Mm.
Whereas if you go on the other side of normal, what you've got is people who they hold their breath and 2 seconds in, they need to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
you can test your tolerance to carbon dioxide by you take a couple of gentle breaths in and out, and then you pinch and hold your nose and see how long you can hold your breath for before you get the urge to breathe. So we're not seeing, for example, we're not seeing how long can you hold your breath for for as long as you can, which is I'm holding my breath, I've got the urge to breathe, but I'm going to fight. No,
But
no,
I'm
no, I can do it. I
fighting
can
through it.
manage.
It's that natural sensation of I want to breathe now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I had air hunger, I remember I was about 2 or 3 seconds
Wow.
before.
Yeah.
So if you hold your breath now, take a breath
Mm.
out and then just pinch and hold. Imagine after 2 seconds, your body was
Wow.
going, no,
That's
you need to
no
breathe.
time at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're constantly. And at that stage, I would, even halfway through a sentence, I couldn't speak a sentence without having to stop to take a gasping breath,
Mm-hmm.
which is horrendous. And the experience of it. And I've come across people with air hunger who are suicidal, who just can't take it anymore. They're so hyperfixated on their breathing because the whole thing is a threat to them that it's tremendously debilitating. And my heart goes out to anyone with it because it's so fucking scary.
Mm.
you know, and because doctors always fob them off saying it's just anxiety, get a hobby, distract yourself. They feel like no one's serving them and they have fallen through the cracks and no one can help. But there are
Well,
solutions out there.
there are, and I'm not surprised this was the video that went viral, if that's the right expression, because you clearly stumbled into or stumbled across an important gap that
Right.
needed to be filled with sound, solid, practical advice and support for people.
Yeah. Well, I always
Yeah.
remember a marketing course years ago. Some American dude went, you don't choose your niche chooses you. And I didn't know what he meant, but I do remember thinking it's pronounced niche.
Niche. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to choose your niche so that you can get rich. It's like,
Yeah.
oh God. But I'll be
And
honest,
then
that rhymes better
I love
than.
your first thought was it's niche, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's
Well,
that's really, really powerful stuff. That this is, going to be so helpful for people. Like you said at the beginning of that story, your intent was even if it helps one person, but look at how much of an impact it's had on many, many, many people, and
it
will
is
still
crazy.
continue to help
Yeah,
people. Mm,
it is crazy. It is crazy. And it's a challenging thing to work with because people are so desperate because it feels so awful. They want it to be over now.
mm-hmm.
And then even when they start doing the right thing, they have this expectation of, will it go yet? Has it gone?
Yeah.
But the very act of going, has it gone, brings it back into awareness.
Okay.
So it's a bit like this. In fact, everyone can try this, even listeners, right?
Mm,
Right now, become aware of your right ear, the sensation in your right ear.
mm-hmm.
Just sort of feel into it. And tell me, James, report back the exact moment in your awareness when you stop becoming aware of your right ear. Has it happened now? Yeah, now?
No.
No. What about now? Have you stopped paying attention to your right ear now?
No.
No, no. What about now, though? Now.
When every time you say now, then I'm back into thinking my right ear.
Right. Because in order for you to check in, am I paying attention to it? And am I thinking
Yeah.
about it? Or have I stopped thinking about it? You
You've
have
got
to be
to
thinking about it.
thinking about it.
And this is the horrible pattern they get into with air hunger because what happens
Mm,
is, you know, they want to be free of it. So they keep checking in to see how am I feeling? And one of the things that happens is when we make something very important to us, we hyperfixate on it or we can exaggerate the sensations. So I joke sometimes, do you know who has more turbulent flights than anybody? The phobic flyers.
oh, well, yes.
Not because they're on more turbulent flights, but in
Mm,
their perception, if they're on a flight, they're so busy going, oh God, I hope it's not turbulent. I hope it's not. What was that? What was that?
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
They're going to report every tiny little movement
Mm,
as turbulent. So they blow it out of proportion so they notice it more. And at some point, as I've been talking, you stop paying attention to your right ear until I
hmm.
just mentioned it.
I'm just now thought about my right ear. Yeah.
Right. But that's kind of normal. So here's what happens as people are getting better with air hunger. You know, it's not that it just disappears. It's that slowly over time, they check in on it less. And
Mm,
suddenly, when you're rectifying the carbon dioxide tolerance and then dealing with it so that they don't overbreathe or go into anxiety around it, it just sort of fades away in importance. And suddenly they realize, oh, I'm not really paying. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and then suddenly they've moved on again
mm-hmm.
until eventually a year goes by and they go, oh, hang on, I don't really suffer anymore with this, do I? How
Mm.
interesting. But there's never a moment where it's like, it's gone.
No.
It's more just peters out, fades
But
away
it
when
does
you do
get
the
them
right
to the
thing.
point. It does get them to the point where the suffering reduces to the point of potentially not even being there,
Absolutely. Yeah.
which is a part of that is attention not being paid
Yes.
to it. Okay.
Yes. Which is a
Yeah.
natural fallout by reducing the threat response.
Mm-hmm.
But the worst way to help someone stop paying attention to their ear would be to tell you that you mustn't pay attention to your ear.
Mm-hmm. So you can't, yeah, that's not the route to it.
No.
So don't do it because that's
Yeah.
just going to fuel something else like fear or
Right.
paranoia or something.
If I'd said to you, you can pay attention to all body sensations and all thoughts and all images and anything, I, including your right ear, who gives a shit if it comes up? Then
Mm.
gradually over time, the chances of that being the thing that always pops up would be remote because
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of
Mm-hmm.
many possible experiences. We haven't marked it
Mm.
out as being special.
Mm. It's powerful. It is. And so going back to sort of like the work that you would then do on that, that's the same principle of like the going to the wall in the cinema back in the
Yeah.
whatever year it was. He said there were some people that will get it quicker, some people that will take more time to get it, but
Yep.
working on that, not giving something so much power, so much attention
Yes.
is a integral part of the work to get you to not suffer anymore.
Yes. And with the
Okay.
air hunger specifically, you also have
Mm,
to add in the breathing exercises that are going to retrain the tolerance.
mm,
Otherwise, what happens is you'll have a period where they're going, yeah, I'm not, I'm feeling better about the fact that I can't breathe. But
mm,
eventually you'll be like, but I can't breathe.
mm,
And then they'll get anxious again. You know, I've had some people say, well, if I just do the breathing exercises, that will help. And it will, but my experience is what happens is they do the breathing exercises, they have some initial improvement because the breathing exercises are retraining their carbon dioxide tolerance effectively.
mhm,
But then they get, a week later, because what they want is that quick fix. And they suddenly realize a week later, but they are still feeling it a little bit. They get anxious and they go, what if it doesn't work? What if the breathing exercises stop working? What if I go back to how it was before? And then they start over breathing again, which
mm,
takes them back to square one. So
mhm,
by doing both breathing exercises and anxiety work, what we're really doing is dovetailing both things that work to help them, and then
mm.
that's what causes them to become free from air hunger.
Yeah. Really important work, Howard. Really. Yeah, I'm not surprised, like I said earlier, that most of your work is that at the moment, or 70% of your work or something in
Yeah,
that field is why people are coming to you.
yeah,
Something else that I noticed about your content on YouTube, the YouTube machine, which I love your content, by the way. I think it's excellent. And I
thank
really
you.
just like the way that you are on the channel and how you talk and, just bringing your personality to the work. The one thing I noticed that you focus on a lot as well is how to help parents help their children with anxiety.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're a parent, and it's something actually that to me fits in with, I suppose, what I might describe as early intervention. If you can help set the scene right from a younger age, you could
Yeah,
argue that we're limiting the potential for it to become a massive deal or
sure.
something they really suffer with in adulthood.
Yeah.
What
Oh
what
man.
what do what do you think about helping children have a more healthy relationship with their anxiety?
Yeah. Wow. You've just opened a can of worms. Okay. Are you all right for time?
I am all right for time, yeah.
Okay. All right then. let's 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 get this out then, shall we? Okay.
Okay, I'm very curious to hear what you've got
Now,
to
look,
say.
I will try not to get soapboxy about this, and I
Hmm.
really will try, but it might not be possible because I get very
Well,
angry about
soapboxy to
this.
me is passion, so
Okay,
we like a bit of passion. Yeah.
good. In that case, look, I get very irritated by, I think, again, these are themes that we've already kind of covered on in terms of toxic positivity.
Hmm.
But we are living in a world where increasingly what I see is parents and schools and people that interact with young people and other sort of child focused therapeutic interventionists, as it were. I'm not even sure interventionist is a word, but I'm making
Well,
it
I
up anyway.
like it. Let's make it one.
Why not? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, there's this idea of teaching kids to become afraid of their own experience.
Hmm.
So for example, kid is at school, they're 7 years old, they're 8 years old, they feel upset, they feel sad. I have seen teachers take them to the side and go, let's go to the special sadness or emotion corner and sit on the carpet where zones of regulation where we now talk about why are you sad, why are you upset. What we're doing is we're giving that through meta suggestions. We're giving it a lot of attention, a lot of importance, and what we're really saying is that sadness is bad and you mustn't feel it and we have to treat it straight away. Well, sorry if I'm just a product of my era of the 80s growing up. But if I was young at school and felt sad, suck it up, crack on,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we got it right back then either. But I think there is a healthy balance between
Mm,
the suck it up mentality and let's learn how to just carry on and move on. And despite feeling unhappy, how do I just take action and get things done and move forwards without paying it
hmm.
too much attention? And the other side where we've gone too far, which is, oh my God, little Jimmy's feeling sad. Okay,
Yeah.
we need to
Everybody
occupy
just
him at every.
breathe if you
Yep,
can. Yeah.
absolutely. We've got to, and these days, when a kid is bored, as
Mm,
parents, oh God, our kid mustn't be bored. We have to occupy them at every moment of every time, every
yeah.
millisecond has to be, are they learning? Are they being taken to ballet, piano, this, that, and the other? They have to be learning at all times. No, it's okay for them to be bored, have to figure out how to occupy themselves in their imagination. I've lost count
Right.
of the number of, times I was taken to see Aunt Ethel, whose house stunk. I didn't want to be there, and she had no toys. But sorry, my parents are going around for a cup of tea, so I'm just going to have to tag along and sit
Mm.
there trying to figure out how to occupy myself for the next 4 hours.
Yeah.
You
Quite a
know,
good skill, I'd imagine, actually, if you think about it. If you master that skill,
right?
to be
Absolutely.
so present that you don't have to fill the time with anything out.
There we
Yeah.
go. But I think what's happening is we are not teaching our kids essentially resilience, and we're not modelling it ourselves. So parents are.
Okay.
I, I've
What do
had
you think is being modelled instead? Fragility?
anxiety,
Right.
fragility. I won't work with all kids. Sometimes parents will ring me and say, look, I've got an issue. They're anxious about dogs or sleepovers or whatever. How long's it been going on for? Well, yesterday. Give them a chance,
Uh,
because if the worst thing for them would be they bring them to me and I help them.
because it's made it a thing, then, sort of.
It's made them a thing. And what have they really learned? They've learned that when something tough pops up, mum and dad have to take me to someone else to help me, to fix me.
Mm.
They didn't have any chance to learn how to overcome it, work through it, resilience and so on. It was, oh, it's this big thing, so big that you have to pay someone else to come and help you, which means they don't think I have the capacity to help myself. It's a big issue. And part of it is because parents, what they're really doing is they see, they come back from school and they're upset. Someone made fun of them. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Like, kids are going to make fun of your kids. It's part of
Mm.
growing up. No kid gets through being scot-free of being made fun of. I mean, for fuck's sake, I'm a kid of the 80s when George Lucas created the film Howard the Duck, and my name is Howard. Like,
Oh
go live with
no!
that. Like, of course.
Yeah.
It's like this is, and Howard also rhymes with coward.
Kids are creative when they want to be mean.
They really are, and even
Yeah.
people whose names that, don't rhyme with anything amazing, they'll just go, I don't know, Chris, you're a dick. They'll find a
Yeah. It
way.
doesn't have to be rhyming or
Exactly.
yet sensical at all. Yeah.
Right. So you're going to go through times where kids are going to be made fun of. But if they come back, here's what parents do, right? They project ahead very quickly. They go, oh my God, my kid's not happy right now. What if socially they're ostracized? Socially they don't get better. Socially they don't, and they always feel sad. And they said this thing, and the parent isn't treating the kid in the moment. What the parent is now doing is they've created a whole story labeled future. It's a whole movie in the cinema of their mind labeled my
Mm.
kid living in a cardboard box, unable to cope, unable to facilitate life. He's ostracized by the community. He's never going to amount to anything.
Oh, they've
Quick.
completely catastrophized everything, haven't
Yeah.
they?
We have to take him to someone.
Mm.
And so what we do is we kind of imply that it's a threat in our actions
Mm.
rather than like, yeah, kids are going to be cruel. So, okay, what are the strategies we can use so have you got any ideas what you're going to do next time when they make fun of you? How are we
Mm.
going to manage this?
Mm.
How are we going to help you? Or you know what? Of course kids are going to make fun of you. It's what happens. Like, you'll figure it out. Now, I know this sounds harsh to a lot of people who are gentle parents.
Air
You know,
quotes for those that aren't watching. Yeah.
right. Because I think sometimes by being so gentle, we're robbing the kids. We're doing it. It's great in the short term, but we are robbing them in the long term of developing resilience, which is a natural occurrence.
Hmm.
Trauma is
Natural
not
occurrence of working it
the
out,
human race.
getting through it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the natural response to difficulty and
Mm.
traumatic situations? It's actually resilience. It's not
Hmm.
trauma.
Hmm.
You know, But I think we have to be very careful about the messages that we're sending children in the way
Yeah.
we communicate with them.
Mm.
It's something yeah, so anything that I teach kids is all about like, what can you do to change the patterns of your own thinking? And now here you go and practice that. You have to do it. You have to take
Mm.
ownership. Mum can't do it for you. Dad can't do it for you. I'm not going to do it for you. You've got to
Mm.
step and engage with this, and also to be okay with negative thoughts and feelings. Like, why are we trying to get
Mm.
rid of them all the time? No one's happy
That's
all
an
the time.
interesting phenomenon. I don't know if it's always been part of the human condition, but we just don't like to suffer, do we? Really, we
No,
don't want to feel feelings that we've labeled as bad or unwanted or inconvenient. But I think we're pathologizing now a natural range of human experiences that don't all stick in that everything flows and we do move in and out of different feeling states. It's not static. Yes, I know people get stuck, but often if we're resilient and we're creative and resourceful, we can find our way through it. But if parents are pathologizing the emotions of their children, saying that there's something wrong, or not on purpose, but finding that they're actually aggravating the problem, then it's important that they know how to more healthily interact with their kids.
yeah. Look, don't get me wrong. I think parents are well intentioned. No one wants to
Oh,
screw up their kid.
I
So
agree.
if anyone feels like personally attacked by this, no, like I know everyone
Mm,
has like really good intentions. You want to do the best
mm,
you can for them,
mm,
and it's really hard when you've got, society tells you certain things are should and shouldn't happen. But I think it's just that nudge in the direction of like, how do we help children become more resilient? Well, it's not by stepping in at every moment. It's not by stepping in
no.
and doing it all for them. It's by modeling being resilient yourself.
Mm,
They will pick up on us. Quick example: if a spider runs out across the kitchen floor and the kid sees mum jump on a table and scream, the logic of the brain of the young brain is going to go, "That's really a tiny little thing." And mum is really big and has authority. So if she jumped up on a table and is scared of that, that thing must be deadly.
hmm
So there we go. I'm going to learn that. We
So that's
model.
perhaps where phobias start, for example.
Absolutely. So we can model these things, So, if we're watching kids, or if the kid comes home and says, okay, someone called me a name,
Mm,
and the parent goes, who was it? I'll write to the school. This is unacceptable. Are you okay? Are
mm,
you okay? You mustn't think that. You mustn't think that about yourself.
hmm
Like, don't think about your right ear. Don't
Okay.
think that about
Mm,
yourself.
yeah.
There's no monster, but don't look at it. Suddenly the brain goes, oh, I mustn't think that about myself. And Mum was really upset by that. Oh, God, that really is a big issue, isn't it? Oh, my God, what if I am this thing? The
So
whole,
instead it would be
oh,
what? Like open questions or
well,
an interest, but not to the point of where you're investing in a story
yeah.
that's
So, oh, like, what's going on? What's
mm,
going on? Oh, such
mm,
called me a name. Yeah, this stuff
mm,
happens at schools.
mm,
It's not nice when it happens, is it? Right.
mm,
So, what you can do differently next time?
mm.
But if I'm also calm and I'm grounded about it and I don't like,
Yeah.
look, it'll sort itself out. These things pass and they like, you know, now that's different from if it's chronic and it's going on and on and on and the same kid is doing it repeatedly and over
Mm,
again and it
mm,
becomes physical and like, of course, I'm not suggesting that we turn a blind eye to bullying or but it's like kids are going to say shitty things. And guess what? Sorry to break the news to you, but if you've got kids, your kid is going to say some shitty things to other people too.
yeah. Kids can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know so there are ways in which we can I've done stuff with my kids where when they've been called names, I've done a few things. One thing is I just get them to say thank you. I just go, thanks.
Simple. Simple.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, thanks, appreciate that, cool.
Mm,
And because
yeah.
they don't the other kid doesn't get the rise out of it that they
Mm,
wanted,
mm,
tends not to tends to fade away. A friend of mine gave me this technique, which is this idea. Someone says something to my kid like, "Oh, you're an idiot," or "You smell," or even worse.
mm,
They go, Oh, cool, good one. And you're a tractor. And they go, what? And they go, oh, I thought we were playing the game where we say things about each other that aren't true. Now it's your turn again.
Yeah,
But again,
yeah.
it's like we don't have to immediately go into the story of, oh God, what
Hmm.
does this say about me? What if it carries on? Oh God, it's true. And look how triggered mum and dad were about this.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, so I think we need to be very careful about the ideas that we're putting into kids. But I mean, the whole thing is just, more kids are labeled ADHD and or autistic than ever before. You
Hmm.
know, and but like, let's look at what we're doing to them. We put kids born, and from the age of 0 to 5, the stats are something like they'll watch over 10 to 20,000 hours of screens. Screens are designed bright colours, fast cuts, music, engaging all senses, and we put that in front of. So by the time the kid turns up at school, they've had over 20,000 hours of wiring their brain to be engaged with
Ah, that's
fast-moving paced
extraordinary.
stuff. And then
Yeah.
we sit them in the classroom, and when they struggle to pay attention to one teacher at the front who talks like this, and then they can't focus, we say,
Yeah.
well, they must have problems.
Mm,
We have to medicate them.
mm,
Well, could it have anything to do with, now I don't know, but could it have anything to do with the fact that we're not teaching kids how to regulate and to slow down and to be
mm,
occupied with stuff that isn't going a million miles an hour?
hmm. Yeah.
You know,
That's definitely a part of it. There's something to be curious about. We're not saying yes or no either way, but it's definitely got to be some part of it. And I know there's context. So for some parents that are listening, it might be that they feel that they're wit's end and they just have to give their child a tablet to give them some sense of peace. But it's all about balance, isn't it? If it's all day, every day, that's not the same as a 45 minutes, a couple of times a day, for example, whatever the healthy level would be.
right?
That's that's a strategy or a bit of downtime for them every now and then. That's not constant.
No, and it's not that I
And
want people to go away and go, "Oh, Howard thinks I'm a bad parent because I give my kid the iPad the whole time." It's bigger. It's a bigger issue than that because
it is bigger
you
than
know
that. Yeah.
you've got, I mean, look, I've got grandparents. My kids are grandparents that will say things like, "Oh, in my day we didn't give them iPads and stuff." Great, that's fine, but in your day, the economy was
Didn't
such
have
that,
them.
well, A, you didn't have them, but the economy was also such that you could have someone who, a family of 4 or 5, could be supported by one person who was working.
Mm,
And as the cost of inflation has gone up and house prices have gone up, and now you tend to need 2 people who are working full time to be able to fund a
mm,
family, and we're still pinched, all sides. So, like,
mm,
where's the childcare coming from? It's not quite as
hmm.
simple as just going, well, take away the iPad. Well, what are they doing instead, and how are we managing that? And it's so there are some big issues that are more sort of, I would say, societal and how we've had to
Yes.
manage childcare that are also playing into this. So it's not quite as simple as, well. But I think the things like the government would like to imply it's more about just self ownership. Well, you need to parent better. No, I think you also need to help us by not
Yeah.
charging us so much so that we have more time and energy to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's just a bigger systemic issue. There's
yeah,
multiple factors to it. But what would be empowering for people if they're worried about their children having anxiety, for example, is to be conscious of how you're role modeling to them
absolutely.
what that is.
Yeah,
And I suppose normalizing not having an extreme reaction either way.
right,
And obviously, then if you notice that something happens and that it's not going away on its own, then that's different.
right,
But how you react to it, respond to it, interact with your child all counts as to what they're then processing as
absolutely.
how do I cope now then? You know?
Bottom
Mm,
line, if you're a parent with an anxious kid, step
mm,
one, sort your own shit out first.
mm.
The number of people I've had, parents who they come in and they say to me, Howard, I don't know why they're so anxious all the time. I don't know why they're anxious. I've tried to bring him up, but I don't know. He's always anxious and worried about everything. And I'm like, I think I might have an idea
There
why
might
they're
be a
like this.
clue. Yeah.
Might be a small. But it's like, if that's what they're modeling
Mm.
the whole time. I mean, I'm feeling anxious talking to the parent and I've only met them for 10 seconds when this
Yeah.
poor kid has been in that environment the whole time, right?
Soaking it up like a sponge. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what they're learning, you know.
Mm.
So I think, yes, it's a huge thing, and there's so many more aspects of this that we could go into, but it's, you know, there's certainly a flavour of my orientation around it for sure.
Mm. If you were able to summarize all of, I don't expect this to, so this will be a moment in time question and the answer will be on where we are at this point, but to summarize what you might or encapsulate what people need to remember about anxiety, is there a way that you could sort of draw on everything we've talked about and summarize that in some way, or is it too broad
It
a
is too
subject to
broad.
give that?
It is too broad, but I will share this thought around it because people often find it quite sort of helpful at cutting through a lot of the stuff that we've talked about.
Hmm.
People often think that anxiety is the answer to a question. The question being, is there a threat?
Okay.
In other words, if we, have the thought, is there a threat? And we feel anxious, we go, yep, there's a threat. There's the answer. If I feel
Oh, right.
anxious, it
So
means there's a
they ask
threat.
a question. They ask a no,
Internally,
no. They feel it first, or they ask a question first. Does it matter which way around it
it
starts?
doesn't. It's like
No.
there's this unspoken question of, is there a threat? That's what they're sort of
Okay.
scouting for. Is there a threat? And they think
Yeah.
anxiety is the answer to that question.
Okay. Yeah.
I would argue it's not. I would argue feeling anxiety is the question. Is there a
Okay.
threat? Not the answer.
Okay.
In other words, if they feel a feeling of anxiety, it's a good opportunity to go, right, is there actually a threat? It's not, there is a threat. It's, is there a threat?
Ah,
Is there
I'm with
anything I
you.
need to pay attention to?
So the
Oh,
anxiety feeling is an opportunity to check in with yourself to say, well, thanks, anxiety. Right. Let's now look at the situation. Is there a threat?
yes,
And then that gives you the opportunity to then discern
engage
yes or
differently.
no if there
Yeah,
is. But that and then engages your storytelling or your conscious
yeah,
awareness of what am I telling myself as a story here or something.
yeah, absolutely. Because
Okay.
anxiety is a response to a perceived threat in experience.
Mhm.
It's a perceived threat in the image is the story that you have.
Mm.
But there's no story that's actually a threat. So it's just that little punctuation mark to go, is there actually
Mhm.
a threat
Yeah.
right now? It's so anxiety is
So
the
not just
question.
stopping and going, oh, if I feel anxious, yes, there is a threat. Full stop.
Correct.
Not do that,
Yeah,
but use that as an opportunity to go, is there a threat?
correct.
Okay. I think that
Yeah,
would be very helpful for a lot of people.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the question. Anxiety is the question. Is there a threat, not the answer?
Mm. Yeah. Really important. And in terms of your work, Howard, tell me a bit about what you are doing at the moment. Obviously, you're working with people around air hunger. You mentioned you've got your YouTube channel if people want to get in touch with
Yeah.
you.
So there's a few aspects. There's on one side, I help therapists and change workers, people who are interested in facilitate change, learn more
Hmm.
about these ideas and apply artistry in their own sessions to help people have these kind of insights.
Hmm.
So people can reach out via rapidchange.works and send me
Hmm.
messages and so on via that. On the other hand, I also help people therapeutically with anxiety and air hunger. So I
Okay.
do one-on-one sessions, and
Mm.
well, essentially, these days I'm quite selective over who I work with, and I get down in the trenches with them, and we do some sort of, I would say, sort of 12-week programs where, from start to finish, I'm with them on the journey, and I'm helping people transform their experience, whether it's with air hunger, whether it's with anxiety, but it's
Hmm.
about giving them ongoing help and support for 12 weeks in a way that traditional therapy doesn't normally do.
Hmm.
Where I get down in the ditches with them, essentially, even in between
Hmm.
sessions, to guide them through.
So yeah, you're immersing yourself in the client's experience for that time period to collaborate with them to bring around effective change.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
for me, I remember, when I was going through it, and this is why I designed programs like this. Because when I was young, and it was like seeing someone every week or every 2 weeks, a therapist. And one time, I had a terrible panic attack, and my mum was like, oh, well, just remember, this is going to be really good for you to talk to your therapist about in 2 weeks' time. I'm like, but I need help now. Like,
But I
I,
need it now. Yeah.
is there anything right now that actually might be useful? And sometimes if you've got someone on standby that you can work with that can go, where possible, have you thought about it like this? Or what was thinking that popped up right there? Then
Mm,
in the moment when they need, we can help tweak things or just
mm,
join the dots mentally that they need to become free rather than, because half the time they can't remember. You come back a
yeah.
week later, oh yeah, I can't remember what it was about. So when you go, well, what do you think you were thinking just before that panic attack? What thoughts did you get
Yes.
caught? Oh, I don't remember.
Mm. Because it's lost in the
Yeah.
recesses of the mind somewhere. Yeah.
But why do therapists all do weekly sessions? Because that's
Mm,
what we looked around and were told that's what you do. Rather than going, what would be the best way of helping this person? It was, what's everyone else doing? And that doesn't seem
yes.
like the best way of approaching how to
Mm.
construct something helpful to them.
And I don't mind saying that I'm a therapist and I do follow the traditional model of weekly or fortnightly sessions. But in more recent months or maybe years, I've started to, it's almost like I feel like I've questioned for the first time, just in my own experience, why do we do this?
Right.
But why is it, why do you have to wait for another 2 weeks before you can access my support? And then it was like, because of our training, you know, I know that there's many different ways to train, but the core training tends to often still support the model of, regular sessions once every week or fortnight, for X period of time. Even if some people only offer 6 to 12, or some people offer open-ended sessions, it's still that once every so often.
Right.
You're like, but what about when you're living it in the trenches every single day? So I've started to change my attitude, which I'm then hoping will change my way of working, to start moving away from this old paradigm, because I don't really believe that actually I don't
No.
think there's a place for it. I'm not saying there isn't a place for it at all, but in some ways it's not what's needed.
Well, I'm reminded of there's a great story about a little girl who watches her mother take the
Mm,
roast beef that she's cooking, and she cuts a third of it off, takes the third, bends it round, puts it next to the other two-thirds in a tray, and puts it in the oven and bakes it. And the little girl says, "So, Mum, why are you doing that? Why don't you put it all in?" Oh, no, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. I was taught this. My mum told me how to cook beef. So
mhm,
she goes to the grandma. Grandma, why do you cook? But when you cook the beef and you cut a third off and bend it round and put it in the tray and put it in, why do you do that? My mum showed me how to do it. That's how you do it. So she goes
mhm.
to the old age home where, the great grandma is there, 104. you know, uh, Great grandma. What? Great grandma, tell me why, when you cook the roast beef, do you cut off a third, bend it round? She went, because my oven was too small to put the whole thing in once.
There you go. Yeah.
And you trace it back, and so often we're doing things not because they serve a purpose, but just because whoever told us that's how they did it. And then
Mm,
we just repeat, 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 repeat. And then the reason why we do it is now lost. And in fact, we're doing so much that's redundant and not
mm,
useful just because we were taught or we model that's how it's done. And I think it's
mm.
okay, certainly therapeutically, we should always be questioning and going,
Yeah.
is that really the best way to do
Is that
it?
really?
Why are we
Yeah.
doing it?
Yeah.
Whose benefit is
Yeah.
it for?
Yeah, we
Like,
need to get
why?
we need to get like more like Socrates and question everything a bit more, don't we? Be like, why am I
Absolutely.
doing it this way? Who said?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I don't do it, if I do it a different way,
Yeah.
what are the results? So I've done lots
Mm,
of experimentation over the years where I go,
mm,
well, if I do it with one person once a week and I do it with this person this way,
yeah.
is there a difference?
Mm,
And when you start going, actually, the people seem to be getting better when I do it and I cut away from the
mm,
done things, the
mm,
results seem to improve. Why would I
mm.
do people a disservice by going and doing it that way again?
Yeah. It's definitely food for thought. And I think we should be challenging traditional paradigms and old patterns and thinking, well, nothing stays the same forever. So
Right.
what are we evolving and growing and changing with it, or are we staying stuck in ways that perhaps aren't serving people very well anymore? But you've
Absolutely.
brought so many interesting insights today on this episode. I've got so much buzzing around my brain, thinking, "God, I want to go and think about that. I want to do more reading about this." So it's challenged so much, even for me, somebody that thinks a lot about this stuff. Um, so yeah, I'm really captivated by your perspective and the work that you do.
Cool. Well, happy to hop on. I love this.